Hello again, everyone. This video is just for those of you who are taking an online class this summer. So if you're not taking an online class, you can go ahead and close this video out. You don't have to finish it. If you are taking an online class, there are just a few things that I want to go over with you and remind you of before you start your online classes. Some people think that online classes are easier than in-person classes. This is a common misconception. It's still the same class, so it's going to be about the same level of rigor. It will be different because you don't have the face-to-face class discussion with your classmates and your professor. I believe that all of you who are taking online classes are taking online classes from West Georgia faculty. So you're not in an eCore class where your professor could be pretty much anywhere. So your professor should be accessible. Most likely you'll be emailing your professors rather than actually stopping by for office hours, but some of them will have office hours, so you can use those if you'd like. The number one thing I want to tell you about an online class is please remember that you are in it. We had a student several years ago who forgot that he had signed up for an online class, and by the time he remembered it, he had missed so many assignments that it was too late. His grade was already much lower than it should have been, and I don't want you to be in that situation. So please remember that you have it. Especially if you have a combination of in-person and online classes, that online one can be easy to forget. So just make sure that you remember it is on your schedule and it is a class just like any other, regardless of the format of delivery, whether online or in person. And the next thing I want to tell you is to please have good self-discipline. What I mean by that is that you are making the time for your class, you're setting aside time to get your assignments done. For online classes, it's typically, here's the assignment, this is the date that it opens, this is the day that it's due, you have the time between to use as you need to for that assignment, but you should still set aside time, even though your class doesn't meet at a particular time, like every Tuesday at 1 o'clock or whatever. Make a time for yourself that every week this is the time that you're setting aside to work on this class. You'll feel a lot better about the class if you're very disciplined about it rather than just trying to fit it in wherever you can throughout everything else that you have going on this summer. Print your syllabus. I think that you should definitely have that printed out. You can use it as a checklist, so every assignment that you complete, just check it off. Every assignment that you turn in or discussion board that you do, you can check it off. And that way, even though everything's online, that's great, you still have something physical that you can refer to, so you can know your due dates, you can have everything right there. And then I think that's really important to have your syllabus and anything else that you feel is really important to have printed out, just in case something happens with course and you can't access it, but you have questions about due dates, need to know your professor's email address, something like that. So print that syllabus and be familiar with your syllabus from day one. Email your professors with any questions. Like I said earlier, you may not be able to go directly to office hours. If you're local, you might be able to do that if your professor is also on campus and local. But do email your professor with any questions, even if it seems like a simple or a silly question, like you can't find something, you're supposed to turn something in, you can't find the Dropbox. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to ask your professor questions. That's what they're there for. If you have questions for me as far as the logistics, when is the drop add date, is my move on ready all taken care of, whatever those questions are, feel free to email me as well. We can also Skype or we can meet in person if you're local. Make sure that you're participating. In online classes, participation is key. You don't have that class discussion like you would in a face-to-face environment. So you need to make sure that if there are discussion boards that you're posting, that you're replying, that you are actively engaged in the class. Some students report feeling a little disconnected from their classmates, from their professor, from the class as a whole when it's an online environment. And to help that not be the case, you can just make sure that you are really participating, that you are actively engaged, that you're asking questions, that you're interacting with your classmates, and that'll make it feel more like the in-person environment to an extent, and I think that you'll really enjoy the class a lot more. And my last piece of advice for the online classes is make sure that you're completing all of your assignments on time. Professors typically have assignments and quizzes that will close at a certain time. They might close at 11:59 on Monday night, and after that you don't have access to it anymore. So make sure that just as you would for an in-person class, you are completing everything on time for that online class. If you have any questions at all, please be sure to get in touch with me or your professor. I hope that you have an excellent semester, and I will see you all in the fall.